Now, to do that, we're shifting now to the second piece, which is the video future. Because if that was the mobile future is happening, hang on for that ride. The second one is the video future. And the video future we're already in, but people just haven't fully understood it yet. And that, the ones to understand in this one is the Google guys, who are not the boomers, they're the Gen X generation below that. And these are the Google guys who essentially bought YouTube, because I'm going to talk about YouTube here, although Google has its own story, which is really interesting to talk about as well. Now, what you need to know if you're not in the computer industry is this is the best way to understand what's happened to the internet in the last 20 years. And that there's basically been two booms in the internet. There's the first boom, think of it as the low bandwidth boom. And that's where essentially the pipes were thin, and they could only suck in anything that had to do with text or photo. So any media that could get on that thing, which was text and photos, did so. And if you look at that story, I was at Wired at the time, and people were like, oh, no one's going to read text, or, newspapers don't have to worry, whatever. Anyhow, of course, that story played out exactly that way. We know how that went. The second decade is the high bandwidth boom, internet boom. And the reason that is because the media after this needed bigger bandwidth. And in fact, the first industries to get hit were the next size up files. So which is the next biggest files in media? Sound files. So who got hit first? Music industry. And what happened? All these kids were doing Napster and trading songs and blew apart the music industry in the early part of the 2000s, right? Then what happened? Bigger files, TV. What happened? YouTube. Boom, that happened. And now what we're watching is we're watching the whole film industry essentially getting upended by Netflix now. Netflix actually moves more. It takes more bandwidth on the internet in any given night in the United States now than anybody. And essentially that's because they're moving insane amounts of movies, essentially, over the internet. So anyhow, that's one way to think about this. And the way to kind of understand it from a kind of practical point of view is to send a piece of text is that much information. To send a photo is that big. That's essentially the equivalent of video. Huge amount of information to moving motion video. 30 times a second, you've got to move information on what that person's doing, right? 30 times a second, a lot of information. But why is that important? Because of that exact thing. That motion allows you to see the winks, see the little subtle things. It essentially conveys an incredible density of information to you, but takes a lot of room. So we had to build the pipes out. And that's what basically happened. And this is a very cool data here is essentially this is the traffic on the backbone of the internet from 1990 to 2010, the same 20 years I just pointed out to you. Now, if you start, it's a percentage of traffic. So if you look at the closest side to be here, I don't know if I'm out of the light here, the World Wide Web didn't exist in 1990, right? So its percentage was 0 part. But essentially, once the web took off, the web by 2000, that's the one on the bottom there, is half of all internet traffic was the web, right? Well, then what happens at that point? You start to see the beginnings of video. But where did video really kick? That's the blue one, 2005. What it was at? That was YouTube. And now, video is over, it's 51%. It's over half of all internet traffic now is video. Already, half of all internet. But the thing that gets really wild is Cisco, they might even be here, who essentially is one of the, is essentially the routers of the internet, predicts that by 2015, only 5 years out, 90% of all internet traffic will be video. 90%. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be anything on the web. It means as a percentage, because the web will still be robust and tons of stuff happening. It's that the percentage of the traffic will be video. So anybody who's contemplating not doing video because, it's a fad, look at the numbers. You'd be crazy not to move into video right now, if you're marketing your company or whatever you want to do. So who is the star of this? This is, of course, YouTube. But remember, YouTube did not exist in 2005. They were incorporated in December of 2005. Or actually not incorporated. They actually launched in December of 2005. And so the first official launch there, they had 8 million views. Today, every single day, on 2 billion views, 2 billion videos are streaming off of YouTube every day. Tomorrow, another 2 billion. There's only 6.7 billion people on the planet. It's an insane amount of video that's happening. But the other side is the upload side of it, is in fact what's getting uploaded every single day, actually every single minute. You got 24 hours of video being uploaded every single minute on YouTube. And to put that in context, because you don't even know how big that is, the other way to think of it is in the space of 60 days, more video is put into YouTube than all the television networks ever produced in the last 60 years. 60 days. Now, a lot of it's kind of goofy and a little crap. That's true. But there is a lot of really good stuff in there. Again, my company, we're all over this video stuff, though. Now it's very serious. All the really serious videos going into that now. Anyhow, clearly a trend. The other thing I mentioned, these video channels, these open video channels that will kind of watch this happening with Apple's FaceTime. Already, Skype is the best example of this. Skype, right now, you can actually open video channels with people all over the world. Anyone who has a college kid probably does this every Sunday night or whatever with their college kid now. It's the one way the parents connect. I got a college freshman, and you open these video channels between these people wherever they are. I do a lot of my business now with Europe is through these open video channels. But here's the numbers. 500 million people are doing this right now. 500 million. It isn't just Pete Leyden and a few kids in college. It's a lot of people doing this. And again, look at where it's going.